All right, I got 7 o'clock. 7 o'clock, I'd like to call the January 3rd City of DeSoto City Council meeting to order. We'll start with roll call, please.
Here.
Daniels.
Here.
Onamichael.
Here.
Murdoch.
Here.
Ritter.
Here.
Thank you, council. Everyone's present.
Okay. Would you all please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, our first item is our consent agenda. We have the approval of the minutes from our council meeting of December 20th, approval of pay ordinance 845, approval of a lease with KC Bobcat, and approval of pay ordinance 845-1. Any questions or discussions about anything on the consent agenda? Not a motion?
I'll make a motion, we approve the consent. Sorry. I make a motion, we approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Roll call, please, Lana.
Onamichael.
Yes.
Lane.
Yes.
Ritter.
Yes.
Daniels.
Yes.
Murdoch.
Yes.
Thank you, council. Motion carried.
Okay. Our next item is called the public. Members of the public are welcome to use this time to comment about any matter relating to city business not listed on tonight's agenda. The comments that are discussed under call to public may or may not be acted on by the council during this meeting. There's a 4-minute time limit. Anyone wish to address the council tonight? Linda.
Lane, 9355 Cedar Creek Road, DeSoto, Kansas. And I'm speaking to you tonight on behalf of the DeSoto Arts Council. We have never presented you with your 2018 Sunflower Art Fest poster.
Right. Thank you. Find the appropriate spot on the wall.
To move the map, won't
We'd like to thank you for your support over the past years. That will be the last Sunflower Art Fest poster for a while. We've decided that we're going to try to develop the arts in the community through other means, maybe some sculptures, and enhance our classes and offer more classes downstairs. We did partner with Johnson County when they had that sculpture reveal in November, December, I can't remember exactly when it was, in the Rotary, getting that all done, and it's something we've thought about doing for a long time. So we're going to start looking at some more partnering opportunities and maybe some sponsoring through other things like whatever we decide to come up with. We haven't. We're still brainstorming at this point. We're small in numbers, but we want to develop the arts in the county so that we can make ourselves known. So thank you very much for your support over the years. We deeply appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda.
Thank you.
Anyone else wish to address the council tonight? All right, seeing none, we'll move on. Old business, we have none. So number 4, new business. Receive a report from Volunteer DeSoto, Inc.
That would be me again. All right. Linda Lane, Volunteer DeSoto, Inc. We established this new group for the DeSoto area last year in partnership with the city and several concerned citizens, and our goal is to provide services and assistance to DeSoto to persons or families with special needs, disabilities, and or who are unable to maintain their home in a property in safe and code compliant condition due to lack of finances or physical limitations. So this program isn't for everybody. It's not for landlords. It's not for people that are physically able to maintain their homes. These are for people that are unable to help themselves. We are established as a nonprofit with a 501c3 status. The organization is managed by the board of directors, and we have meetings as needed. We work with the code department, code enforcement staff, and forms a committee of possible projects. We did meet several times to review a lot of projects, and the committee looked over them, and some of them they felt weren't good options for us at that time. but we did manage to find one that worked for us. The public can also nominate projects. We do have a website up now, and I'll give that to you in just a few minutes. And that's on the project page where they would do that. They can also contact a Volunteer DeSoto Inc. member, and we would be happy to look at those. The committee meets to review the submissions. I think I mentioned that already. And then we would contact the homeowner once we make a decision, and we would discuss the options that are available to them. We don't do any work inside. It's all exterior work. And then we do have a written release agreement that they would need to sign to give approval to do that. We would meet with the committee then, again, to discuss the project options, what manpower we're going to need, the expenses, the requirements, supplies, etc. Volunteers can sign up on the Volunteer DeSoto Inc. website under Volunteer. We'll establish a database similar to what the food pantry uses, and that way when we do have a project come up, we will just send it out the notification, and whoever wants to sign up for it can. All volunteers will be required to sign and submit a release agreement on each project, and the Volunteer DeSoto Inc. Committee project lead is responsible for verification. We have one person who is in charge of each project so that we can make sure that all of our forms are done, we're following the proper protocol, and there's no surprises. We have a sign-in sheet, and on each project does require that we have a sign-in and sign-out sheet to track our participants, as well as the number of hours donated on each project. Okay, Mike. And our first project was at 8495 Peoria. The homeowner had not been able to maintain his property due to serious health issues, and the entire property was overgrown. You can see from the front, I should have shot the same angle. Being a photographer, you'd think I'd think of that, but I was so excited over the project. It was like, I almost forgot to take pictures. So that's what that looked like in the front, and the whole front of the house was overgrown. The sides were overgrown, and the whole backyard was overgrown. And the volunteers were able to clear and remove the overgrowth from the property, not only improving the appearance of the home, but the neighborhood as well. Consequently, the homeowner has since sold his home, and because he wasn't able to maintain it, so that was a win-win situation for him. He was able to get it cleaned up so that he could sell it, and the future homeowner saved them some work as well. The homeowner has expressed his sincere appreciation for the opportunity to participate in this program because he simply could not get it done. And when I talked to him first about this, he said, well, I really want to sell it someday once we can get it cleaned up enough so that I can even put it on the market, because he knew the way it was, he wouldn't even be able to get it on the market that way. So I said, well, I think we've got a group that can help you with it. So we were excited because this is our first project, and we look forward to doing many more. And the neighbors have also commented on how much they appreciate the improvements, because we call it a ripple effect. One house fixes up, and then it just ripples on down because everybody goes, well, I need to fix up my property. And that's our goal, is to just continue beautifying DeSoto. So there are other ways we can help, because we need more projects. So if you guys know of something, or if the public knows of someone, if they could contact us and let us know, we'd be happy to review it. We need volunteers, and they can sign up on the website to do that. And we need donations, because some of these projects could get very expensive. We did have a contractor help us a lot with this project. I mean, he used his manpower to haul everything off, and so we didn't incur any expense there, although we had already talked to Mike, and he was going to have our city staff pick up all the debris and things, but we did have a volunteer that got it all hauled off for us, so that saved us a lot of time. We did have a lot of saws and things like that the volunteers brought in and took care of, but sometime it may be something we need to have some assistance. Maybe there may be something structural that we need to do that we can do it. We have a very small amount in our bank account we've already got established. The other way to contact us is Facebook and we do have a volunteerdesoto@gmail.com is our email, so you could contact us on that. I want to jump backwards just a second. There were 29 hours volunteer time that was donated for this, and that's going to be turned into the city so they can use it as well, because the city has been very generous to partner their time with staff on getting things done, which we're deeply appreciative of. Does anybody have any questions on anything?
Was-
I just throw up the website there.
Great, thank you, Mike.
Wes Huddleston with Hudamaki put this website
Yes, he did.
together. It's, did a lot of work on that.
Yes.
Was this one referred by our codes enforcement to deal with, or was it just outreach from the property owner?
I think we had talked with them once, but they didn't get a positive response then, and
Okay.
I discussed a little further, and we were able to reach an agreement.
Yeah, it's been a little more challenging than we had anticipated finding the appropriate
Right,
projects.
Yes.
You know, there are a number of factors that kind of could kick them out, and it's just been a little tougher finding projects than we thought. So we really are in need of projects.
We are. So we do welcome anybody suggesting them. It doesn't mean that we're going to act on that one, because we do want to keep it limited, because our volunteers want to make sure that it's somebody that really needs the help, but not somebody that necessarily could maintain their property. They just choose not to, So we want to be careful not to get into that trap, because we are using volunteer dollars and time, and everybody just wants to make sure that it's a property and that really needs it, but not able to maintain it. Anything else?
Yeah, so if you have a project suggestion, you can
Go
fill
on
out
the
this form
website.
on the website and submit that, and it goes straight to the group. So it can be anonymous,
Yes, and that's what we do encourage it. We want it to be anonymous because, and the ideal situation would be if you knew somebody, you can nominate yourself if you chose to, but this doesn't go to anybody else, so nobody's going to be embarrassed if, that's not going to go up on our website so that anybody can see it, because it's got to be a mutual agreement. So it'll come to the committee, and we'll look it over, and then we'll contact the homeowner and see if they're interested in it.
Okay.
Right?
Yep.
Okay.
Thank you, Linda.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks, Linda.
Item 4B, consider agreement with Johnson County for the 91st Street Cars Fund.
Yes, council, this is the formal agreement between us and the county that allows us to receive what has been slated as $851,000 from the CARS program for 91st Street. The agreement states specifically $851,000. Essentially, that's what we think half of the construction cost will be. This total project was about $1.9 million, but that was with all the engineering, design, and administrative stuff. So the construction's expected around $1.6 million, somewhere in there. If that goes over, there's a mechanism to apply for a change order through the CARS and get the half of the overage too. So 851 might not be the cap, but that's where we think it is going to be. In terms of the agreement, this is the same agreement as we've have done in the past for CARS projects. We've had several of them, not in the recent several years, but in previously. It's just an interlocal agreement that says we're responsible for the design, the administration, and implementing the project, and we submit for reimbursement payments to the county. So it's a reimbursement program. So if you're all comfortable moving forward with that, I'd like to have a motion authorizing the mayor to sign it.
Any questions or a motion?
I move to authorize the mayor to sign the interlocal agreement with Johnson County providing for CARS funding for the 2019 91st Street project.
I'll second the motion.
All right, we have a motion, a second. Roll call, please.
Yes.
Ritter,
Yes.
Daniels,
Yes.
Monahan,
Yes.
Murdoch.
Yes.
Thank you, council. The motion carries.
Okay. 4C, consider Park Board's recommendation to approve the Parks and Recreation Master Plan.
All right, thank you, Mayor and Council. As you know, as a result from the input of the strategic plan, that was implemented a couple of years ago. It was determined that we needed to look at our Parks and Recreation Plan as a specific item. And of course, part of that recommendation comes from the fact that we hadn't done an update since 2006, so it was high time that we took a look at our parks and recreation programs and in conjunction with our facilities here and the fact that, the pool's been built, so there's a lot of things that have changed in DeSoto, obviously, since 2006. Another thing that was very beneficial throughout the process was establishing the park board at the mayor's behest, and actually, we're able to get this document in front of them and actually go through that with them. So, and they've gone through this and scrubbed it pretty closely with our consultant, Pat O'Toole from Greenplay. So Pat's going to go ahead and give you an update on the report itself. Jay and myself will be here to answer any questions, of course, Mike as well. So with that, I will turn it over to Pat and take his presentation.
Good evening. I'm Pat O'Toole with a company called Greenplay. We are park and recreation consultants. We do these types of plans all over the country. Been in existence since '99. We've done a little over 500 of them. I personally operate out of Lawrence. In fact, born and bred in Lawrence. So tonight, I think I'll just go through kind of the summary and the recommendations, and feel free to ask any questions as we go along. Okay, looking at what we called findings and recurring themes. This is kind of just a snapshot of some of the things we heard. Started in April, a little bit about the process with a strategic kickoff meeting, outlined our dates, how we'd like to do a public input process, which was pretty extensive. We did a survey monkey as well. And these are the kind of things that kept coming back through all of those different mechanisms. Maintain and improve and repair the existing facilities. Increase availability of indoor and outdoor spaces. Improve connectivity, develop trails, bikeways, and walking paths was probably the number one thing that we heard. Better use of technology, a lot of communication issues were brought forth. Improve the ADA accessibility. Needs additional resources to expand rec programs and events. Improve restrooms and parking at several of the parks, and to create equity in rental rates at the facility here were kind of the highlights. We've got one more, Mike. Signage or entry monuments are not present in many of the parks. Need unique adventure elements in the parks on some of them that are non-developed. No safe access from town down to the riverfront park. Marketing communication can be improved. A need for rectangular ball fields was probably the number one outdoor sports that we heard. But we did hear diamond fields as well. Need additional funding sources and equity and user fees. That was kind of a theme as we went along too. There's, everything, we can do everything if we had money. And need more community events and diversity in the unique program offerings. So we had a whole element of allowing folks to say, what would you like to see added? So in recommendations, and what I'm going to do is just pretty much throw up the last summary chart that we have. And on that chart, it's basically the action plan. We have cost estimates and prioritizations. So this just kind of tells you how to kind of read that chart. There's 4 categories that we're going to go through. Facilities and amenities, organizational efficiency, programs and service delivery, and finance. And it will follow those in order. And the cost estimates are all in 2018 figures. Most of the costs are dependent on the extension or the extent of the enhancements, so we can't really, some of them, it really depends on how big or what you're going to develop. So there's some to be announced in there. And the time frame that's listed in there as far as the priorities are short-term, mid-term, long-term, and ongoing. So short-term's up to first 3 years of this plan, mid-term's 4 to 6 years, and long-term 7 to 10 years. So goal 1, improve and update existing parks and facilities. So this is all of the existing infrastructure and park elements. First one was update aging infrastructure, update the items listed in a low-scoring matrix. What we did was looked at not just every park, but every element in the parks. And we graded them on a 1, 2, or a 3 basis. 1 being needs some help, needs to be redone, rejuvenated, replaced, or repaired. A 2 means it's still functioning the way it's intended to function, and a 3 is kind of state of the art, or it's new and won't need to be looked at in this plan at all. Rather than list all those, we put those in a staff document, delivered that to Jay. Basically said, here's the things that are kind of the low-hanging fruit that a lot of times your CIP budget can take care of. So that's the first one. Improve ADA accessibility. We did not do a thorough ADA accessibility look, but as we looked at your amenities and saw something that would be necessary for a step 1 ADA accessibility look, we listed those out as well and scored them a 1. Implement Riverfest master plan. We looked at that plan. We looked at all the previous plans that you had, including the comp plan and the last plan that you did here. And that's a solid plan. That's, I think, was a highlight of your last one. And getting that implemented, I think, would really be, and we heard that from your citizens that they really like to see that. So I think that would be a big improvement. Add and install parking lots. Again, we've got in the plan where those are. Add and install security lighting in a few places. Construct permanent restroom facility. Implement phasing 2 to 4 of the Riverfest master plan to reach the full build out. Each one of those, as you see the columns, for all of these, there's a capital cost and operational budget, and then that time frame we kind of went through. Repurpose and refinish indoor fitness spaces in the City Hall building. Install and improve restroom facilities in Riverfest Park and Miller Park. Install new entrance and wayfinding signage at all the city-owned parks. And fix the drainage problems in Miller Park. Okay. Install additional amenities in existing parks and facilities. These are listed right below that. They include add irrigation on existing sports field at Miller Park, add parking lots at Miller Park at the northeast corner of the tennis courts and the southeast corner near the old pool building. Add shelter in Miller Park for events, replace northern playground structure at Miller Park, improve outdoor recreation access for fishing at Riverfest Park, and add a water feature attraction at the Aquatic Center. Trail from DeSoto to the school facilities west of Lexington Lake, included in the 91st Street extension project. Trail from downtown DeSoto to Riverfest Park. I tell you, that's one we heard everywhere. Of course, everybody would love to see that done safely, where kids could get down there as well. Trail connection between the dead end trail south of 95th Street Trailhead and Kill Creek Park. Sidewalk along Kill Creek Road from 83rd to K10, and a trail from the intersection of 83rd Street and Kill Creek Road to Carlos Road. And a soft service recreational trail along the river from Riverfest Park through Widow Big Knife Park and connecting to the current trails at Lexington Lake. So those were kind of the trail improvements that we had. Had 4 rectangular fields, sports lighting on those fields, and we've got the costs of those. Add 5 diamond sports fields with 300-foot fences and lighting those as well. We talked about those could, ideally be in one spot for a sports complex, but wouldn't necessarily have to be. They could be, where you went rectangular one place and diamond in another. Add a concession stand, restrooms, parking lot to the sports complex, and aluminum bleachers. So these are all the additional costs for that same recommendation. Develop Widow Big Knife master plan, and these are the undeveloped parks that we think need their own master plan to kind of decide what you want to do with those. Develop the Wilderness Park master plan and the master plan for the Lexington and Commerce parcel. So those are ones that, you know, depending on, you got some neighbor issues, you got electricity issues, you got some, you know, we had a lot of talk about, you know, do we even need all these parks? But I think in the end, from a lot of what we've put down that could happen at these parks, I think we're recommending that you decide down the road, and get these in short and midterms to see what you want to do with them. Okay, goal 2, improve organizational efficiencies. Prepare an ADA transition plan for all parks and facilities. Federal law requires there be an ADA transition plan. Doesn't mean that you have to spend the dollars to make everything ADA compliant, but to have a plan to get there based on your own resources. Improve Wi-Fi connectivity in parks and facilities. Clarify the mission, vision, and values of the organization. And redefine the Park Advisory Board bylaws, roles, and duties. And I think in the plan, we certainly put some recommended changes in there and some examples to go by as what we see as particularly a Park and Rec Advisory Board's roles are. Clarify youth sports policies and procedures, just to be consistent was what we kept hearing. Improve communication with the sports group, that's kind of that same thing. Utilize relevant marketing tools and develop a marketing plan. Improve and develop partnerships, develop equitable rental and lease rates, extend pool hours, better use of technology and social media. Goal 3 was to improve programs and service delivery, offer more programs for all ages, add more special events at Riverfest Park, hire one new full-time recreation programmer so that these programs could be implemented, increase social media presence, and target user groups via email marketing. Advertise for instructors and increase incentives and pay. There is an issue of getting instructors here in DeSoto. Increase evening programs for those that work. Improve transparency and communication with youth sports parents, and offer additional swim programs. Goal 4, increase financial opportunities. Recalculate the park impact in lieu of fees. Again, we put some examples in there, but I think that's all really localized as to what you can do. I do know that in looking at those, they have not been reviewed in many, many years and would be considered out of date. Potential bond referendum for large capital projects, which is what we were considering for the things like the sports complex and the larger items. Implement a cost recovery and pricing philosophy policy, which basically allows you to look at the balance of the benefit for the individual taking a program and the taxpayer or the community, and price it accordingly. Develop a gift catalog for donors. Resurrect the use of the Park Foundation Fund. Questions, comments? I know I went through that pretty quick. Okay. We'll have to. I'm going to start with our public input process, our initial groups that we had. Well, I'm trying to figure out what page to look at here for the. Okay, the survey, I'll hit that because I found it. 387 survey responses. 1.3 views of the Facebook video ad for that, and it was emailed to the recreation database of 2,226 users. And I want to say we had that out probably a good month and a half, I think, so 6 weeks, and continually hit it. And what we did, we built that survey based on the questions that we heard from the focus groups. So some of the questions here that we asked. What improvements should be made to existing facilities? What additional facilities would you like to see? What partners or stakeholders could assist with the implementation? What should be the top priority in the next 5 to 10 years? What programs would you like to see? The top programs, swimming lessons, special events, youth basketball, youth soccer, youth t-ball.
That was all just Appendix A on the report.
Right.
It's a real nice summary of all of our public input, from the survey or the emails or the small groups or your interviews with department heads and
Yes.
staff. So all that information is there in Exhibit A. It really was. It's a pretty good summary. What surprised me is just how popular the trail idea is. It's just like people just want sidewalks and trails.
Yes. Safe.
Yeah.
So a lot of the lighting that came up was due to trails. Obviously, the trail from downtown down to Riverfest Park, and one along the road they'd like to see off-road as much as possible, obviously.
Questions from council? Discussion? So our action tonight would be to accept the report, is that
Yeah,
right?
so the park board took a look at this a couple of weeks ago, and they recommended that the council accept it as the Parks and Rec master plan, long-range plan. So yeah, if you could formalize that in the form of a motion, then that'll give the park board some direction to, we're actually meeting on Monday to start looking at the recommendations, working towards some of these short-term goals within the plan, starting with bylaws and the board functions.
Yeah, I guess that's what I was going to ask, is kind of if we approve it, then what's next? And
Yeah.
so, but you've already got some plan to begin to move forward. A lot of the operational things are kinds of things that you can make some quick hits on, but some of them are much more involved with capital improvement planning and weaving it into our strategic plan and that kind of thing. So yeah, I just hope that, from the presentation, I really agree with and love the observations and the goals. There's a lot to do, but how do we keep it alive?
Yeah. Keep it alive.
Okay. So someone want to make a motion to accept the Parks and Recreation Master Plan as presented?
I'll make a motion that we accept the Parks and Rec master plan as presented.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, we have a motion, a second. Roll call, please, Lana.
Yes.
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 Daniels,
Yes.
Yes.
thank you, council, motion carried.
Thank you.
Nice job with the plan.
Yeah.
Obviously, you guys and the Parks Board put a ton of work into it. I wish I really could say I digested the entire thing, but there's a lot of good material and a lot of good
stuff in there.
input.
And one thing I will say that I've been doing this a long time, and I was a park and rec director for 20 years before I started doing this at 4 different agencies. And when we used to do plans, they were just wish lists, A to Z, wish list, without any comprehension as to what resources you have. So from Green Place's perspective, when we got into the business, we started to think about, there's not one size that fits all. There's no standards to just say, well, you need X number of these based on your population. And secondly, what resources do you have? So what I think in this plan, we want to stretch you and not just do what you can do, but I think everything in here over the 10-year period, there's a nice game plan. And then the other thing is, it's a guidelines. Things change and weave around, and there's stuff in here that you're going to read that you need a new web page, and that's already been done. So it was a pleasure working with you guys. It really was.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Pat.
So it's a public document. It's obviously, I presume, accessible on our website now. If not now, then
Will be
probably
tomorrow.
soon.
Yeah.
But how do we show the public what is being done, what the results of it are, kind of how we're thinking, how we're progressing, so that people do see that, their money's getting spent well, and some real ideas are getting put together, and we want to rally some support around it. How do we do that?
I think, well, there's a couple things. I think your comments about tying this into the strategic plan are important. That shows the public that we're acting on this study that we just did, and the strategic plan relates directly to budget, obviously. And so, with the park board's action, their involvement in the process, they're going to be a lot more active in the next year, implementing some of the primary recommendations. The first of which, like I said, are the bylaws, the roles, responsibilities, duties of the park board. Those will come back up to the council to establish. That's kind of the first thing. And the second thing is, I think a good part of the first year, or 2019, in my mind, had been getting a handle on the large capital items that are in here, and getting a handle on what we think the community's priorities are with regard to those large capital items, and the possibility, as it's brought up in the recommendations, of a referendum for a bond issue for those large capital items, I think are probably the meat of what the park board will be looking at. Now, I don't know, the park board, they'll obviously have have other issues as we go along, but I think that's the biggest thing. So I've always kind of envisioned that as being a logical next step.
Well, and in getting to there, and it's mentioned several times in there about communication of what's available and what we're doing, plans and programs, that sort of thing. But it even said over communicate in certain areas. And I think as we move towards creating some momentum towards a referendum for some things, the earlier we start to get some enthusiasm built around the work that's being done here, then the better that will be, and maybe even the more demand for those. Particularly look at these soccer fields and the demand that we've had for that. But I think the more that we, the city via the Facebook page or whatever, is talking social media in there as well, and the more we can push it out and start to get some enthusiasm built, the better.
Well, this thing's full of great recommendations, and like Pat said, if we had all the money in the world, we'd love to do them all. But the information, the marketing, the outreach sort of stuff is something that doesn't cost a whole lot, unless you hire a firm to do that, which I don't think we're quite there yet. But yeah, that's something we can definitely focus on, and we started already. Some of the stuff we've kind of started already. The summer concert series is one way. That's a good practice run. That's, community events is also mentioned in here. So we're kind of looking forward to hitting that sort of stride as we get into the spring.
Okay, very good. So we'll move on. Executive session, we have none.
Nope.
All right, advisory reports. Mike?
I have a few things. Wanted to let you know, I think I mentioned this before, but I'm not sure we had a date. Public Safety Town Hall. We did one of these last January with the police department. This year we're going to do pretty much the same thing again, but we'll also include the fire district on it. So that's kind of the public safety element to it. We'll have it here in this meeting Tuesday, January 29th, and we'll start at 6:30. Last year it went about an hour and a half. It might be a little bit longer than that with the fire department as well. But Jeremy Campbell with the sheriff's office just does a great job putting together a presentation, just kind of summarizing what the sheriff's department has been up to in the last year in DeSoto. He gives some crime numbers, some statistics, and then just invites a dialogue with the community. We had, I'm trying to remember if anybody, you were there, weren't you?
No, actually, we were, I was in
You
New
were out of
Orleans
town.
last year when this went out.
I think we had 20 or 30 people show up from the
It
public.
was a good turnout.
Yeah, Rob was there. Yeah. And it was very well appreciated. So we're doing that again on January 29th. So invite any or all of you to attend if you can, if you want to. Also want to let you know at the next meeting, we talked about the strategic plan update in December. There's nothing on the agenda tonight. I took some time off over the holidays, so I didn't have a chance to put much together. But we'll talk about that again at the next meeting, and then we'll start talking about a CIP update at the second meeting in January as well. I think I mentioned also we've got a park board meeting on Monday, January 7th, and so the park board president is here tonight. Did we send that out today? The agenda, primarily, like I said, the agenda is going to be establish the bylaws and the roles responsibility of the board. I think we'll talk again a little bit more about the summer concert series as well. Did want to let you know on Lori's recommendation, I reached out to Johnson County Cultural Division. They have a new division they just call it the Cultural Division, and basically it's events, outreach. They're based at the Heritage Center, the new Heritage Center there on Metcalf. Reached out to them about maybe partnering in some marketing or outreach for the summer concert series, and so they're pretty excited about doing that. They were involved with the temporary art display out in Lexington Lake Park, and so they kind of remembered, DeSoto from that. So they're interested in getting us, maybe there's some cooperation to get the word out about our summer concert series and cooperate on some other stuff too. So I'll be meeting with them in February. Once we have a little more firm grasp on exactly what the concert series is going to be. So we're still working through that. And that's it. That's all on my list.
Okay, thank you, Patrick. Brad?
Just a few things, Mayor. Next planning commission meeting, we'll have Carriage House. They want to do an expansion to their site. So actually, Mike and I will be on the morning. And then, of course, the text, and then we'll take it up again by the planning commission. So those 2 items, I issued.
We have probably two immediate hookups as soon as that's ready. Is that?
Yeah, there's one house that's been vacant for quite a while. It's waiting for.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Jay, anything from the Parks Department tonight? Since you're here. I know, but we go through department heads, so. All right.
Well, Jay, you mentioned to me that you're going to start a monthly recreation programming sort of update, mostly for the Parks Board, but we'll get that here too. Yeah.
Justin and I got to talking about it, just the idea of what programs we have going on, kind of the numbers, how everything's set up, as well as future programs that we have planned. Monthly update of what's going on. Hopefully that can help get the word out more, so more people can get that from.
Okay. Thank you. Lana, anything for the council tonight?
Yes, please, Mayor. If you've looked ahead at the July 4th calendar, July 4th is on Thursday this year, first city council meeting of the month. I draft up the proposed agendas for Mike and Brad and everyone to add to, and I noticed that when I was putting the 2019 agendas together. So we will need to look at a different date.
Okay. Any thoughts, or you want to think about that later?
Is that hit during a time of year where we have a lot going on, or is that one where we could leave it as a kind of cancel it and then have call a special meeting at a date to be determined?
Kinda
If-
working on budget yet, aren't we? Kind of finalizing.
That'll be kind of in the middle of the budget
Finalizing
stuff.
It'll be busy.
Yeah.
So we do need to pick a
We
date.
could meet the,
The
Third.
next week or the Tuesday before.
Yeah, you could go a week off or a week ahead,
a day ahead.
or a day. Either way, will
We
be
just do
fine.
it like
Wednesday the 3rd, or if you went to the following week begins on Monday the 8th, if you don't have a calendar with you.
what else is in this room that we need to watch for an interference with?
Just planning commissions and court. Those are Monday and Tuesdays. So Wednesdays.
We just move it a day early and do it
generally
the third.
okay. Yeah, I think it'd be good.
Push it up.
Because of the budget stuff, you just never know. I'd hate to move it a week.
So we would need a motion to adjust our first July meeting to the 3rd.
I'll make a motion. Oh, it's all right. You can do it. You're right there. She can hear you. I'll make the motion. We move the July 4th city council meeting to July 3rd, 2019, same time.
All right, we have a motion, a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. What's next?
The one last thing I have is I sent all of you a reminder about the Chamber of Commerce annual dinner. So if you are planning to attend that, if you could let me know this next week, then I can send in the city's RSVPs to Sarah.
Okay.
All right, that's all I have, Mayor. Thank
All
you.
righty. Thank you, Lana. Council comments. Danny, you want to start tonight?
I don't have anything, Mayor, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Kevin? Kevin?
Just like to recognize from our broadband activity perspective that Zoom Fiber was out building along
Yeah.
Lexington today. I stopped and talked to Cameron, and he called it his second day, but it was actually first day of digging. So he's held up a little bit by utility locates, but he is underway.
That's pretty cool.
That is real cool.
And and RG pulled the permits for the build to this building the week of Christmas, I think. So that was a week and a half ago.
Yeah, I came to
This
the
12
post
months is-
office and saw Mike walking up and down the street. So he must have been kind of looking at
Mumbling to himself.
probably, probably. It's interesting to see that Wi-Fi connectivity is part of the parks
Right,
plan,
exactly. So
Yeah.
hopefully
and
in a
that's
year
part
from now
of
we
our.
can check that
we can
off.
check that one off.
That's all I have.
All right, thank you, Kevin. Lori?
I don't think I have anything. I probably should, but I don't.
All right.
Come up with something for next time.
Rob?
Not much other than the league's government day is this month on a Wednesday, so I'll be up there.
Did they? I didn't get an email. Did they send an email out on that?
I think so.
Maybe it went to spam.
It's the League of Kansas Municipalities Government Day, which is
It's
the
like
23rd.
A week or so after they get back in session.
Yeah,
right?
Wednesday the 23rd.
Okay. 1, 2,
That's
3.
about it.
All right.
And happy birthday to Mike.
Oh, thank you.
All right. One more reminder on the administrator reviews. I think, Kevin, we need yours and Rob's. Because we'd like to get those compiled so we can have our review session at our next meeting. So if you could get that back to Mike. We'll do.
Yep.
Soon. I don't think I had anything else. So,
I'll make a motion. We adjourn.
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
You guys are ready.
Well, I was always ready before.